Hey guys, Stefan here. Wanted to do a quick video today on Bitcoin and bear market optimism. So it looks like we're entering into a Bitcoin bear market, and we're seeing a lot of people having a cry on Twitter and various other places about how they're losing all this money in their cryptocurrency coins and so on. And the current price of Bitcoin is around 6,200 US. And just recently it had dipped to about 5,800 at one point, and then now it's coming back up. But ultimately, why should we still be optimistic? Well, nothing of substance has changed from my point of view. So Bitcoin still has a 21 million limit. It's still decentralized. It's still the only coin that has resisted attacks from various different parties trying to take it down or trying to subvert the purpose of Bitcoin. It's still the biggest out of all the cryptocurrencies and all the ICOs. It's still got the highest in terms of the dominance index, which in fact is rising a bit. So what's happening is, as the whole space is coming down a bit, Bitcoin's percentage of the whole total is actually rising, and it's still the largest. There's still a huge amount of development happening on Bitcoin and Lightning Network. There are new wallets and apps coming out every day. We're seeing online websites where people can do a quick Lightning payment to paint pixels onto the screen or to buy things using Lightning Network. So fundamentally, the case for Bitcoin is still very, very sound. It's just that maybe we've reached the end of this particular wave, right? So if you look online, Google this topic called Bitcoin obituaries, right? And there's literally just listings of articles of people saying, oh, Bitcoin is dead. Look how many times it's died. And you'll see people talking about various theories on manipulation and it was the tether manipulation that caused the run up. And what you'll find in reality is that every run up has some story. It's almost our tendency to want to try and ascribe some type of narrative or story to why it was running up and to sort of explain that. So in one of the prior run-ups back in sort of 2013, there was this story of Willybot, this Mt. Gox automated bot that was running up the price, and that it wasn't true demand. And yet then we had we've had various other run-ups and downs over the years. So what I've found is a more better way to think about this is to think of it in terms of waves. So at the start, the earliest waves were people who were into, the cypherpunk email list, and who were into this kind of nerdy mining thing. And then, you had the libertarians who were about, anti-state money. And, every progressive wave, there's more and more people who are quote unquote accessible in that new wave. And so rather than thinking, it was this specific, bot or this specific manipulation, think of it more like we've just exhausted the number of people who Bitcoin could reach, so to speak, in this wave. So now we just rinse and repeat. It'll just be another down cycle. Who knows? I couldn't tell you when. Anyone who tells you exactly when, well, you should be skeptical. We can sketch out possible theories. It might be maybe we'll have another run up at the end of the year, or maybe it will be after the next halving, right? So we don't know. But you've got to trust the process. We're forging a new generation of strong hand hodlers, right? These people who have been hardened through going through all the ups and downs, and now they are much more able to deal with the multi-year bear markets. So you've got people who came in and they were really weak hands to begin with. They never really had much of a conviction. They didn't have much conviction in the case for sound money and what is the cypherpunk mission that Bitcoin is trying to help achieve. This idea of having privacy and being able to communicate freely and spend money or receive money freely on the internet. So what's happening now is a lot of those people are now some of the people who got burned will go and learn. They'll go and read some of this. So it's kind of like come for the gains or come for the Lambos, but then stay for the sound money, right? So what they're going to now do, some of those people, right? And if you're watching this, it's likely that you might be one of those people. So there's a chance that you will then, go and read a little bit further and understand more about the actual case for sound money, and look at things like stock to flow ratio and inflation rate of Bitcoin versus other alternatives. You might look into more advanced investment theses and understand, oh, okay, it's not just like all in or nothing on Bitcoin. It might be, okay, carve out a small chunk of your portfolio, say 1 to 5%, and put that in Bitcoin, rather than this kind of crazy all-in approach. Or you might take an approach where it's more like a dollar cost averaging in, just a little bit every month. So the other thing people are now learning is that Bitcoin is the one. No other coin is even close. So that's another factor out of this. I think out of this recent run up and down, we're going to see a lot of the multi-coiners sort of have the scales fall from their eyes and realize that they were fooled by some of these other projects that sold them lies. They took security weaknesses and flaws and then tried to market them as strengths. But in reality, they weren't really strengths. They were just security flaws, or they were things that weren't really ready for the prime time in Bitcoin yet. And that's why they just weren't being put into Bitcoin. So we're seeing more and more of these people go and read and understand. We're seeing, the hodlers getting more educated. We're seeing, and personally on Twitter and some of the other social media forums, I'm seeing a lot more mention of Austrian economics concepts like time preference. We're seeing more and more people talk about the concept of monetary policy. People are learning and understanding more and more about Bitcoin as we go. And ultimately, it's almost like everyone's winging it to some extent, right? There's no, this is a bit of an unprecedented thing. So even the most expert people, we're still trying to learn and understand more about this as we go, but we just have good reasoning for why we think there will be a eventual rapid and mass adoption of Bitcoin because of its superiority as a better money. So, look, the other thing is how long will it be until the next run? Nobody could tell you. It could be 6 months. We might have to wait until after the next halving, which will really reduce the amount of new supply hitting the market. Or we might have to wait until the next banking crisis or some kind of bubble pop for people to realize the value of Bitcoin. So who knows? But in the meantime, it's heads down. Go and work. Go and either if you have the skills, you can go and build in the Bitcoin and Lightning Network ecospaces. Let's say you could, and if you don't, well, you can just keep an eye on the space and continually accumulate a little bit in line with your general overarching strategy around your financial planning and so on, and your investment plan. The other thing to think about is just think back to that concept of value, right? The funny thing now is that our human psychology is so funny that we see things drop in value and now we don't want it. But imagine if this thing has value in it, then it's like if supermarket goods were getting cheaper, you might now buy more, right? If you could buy extra steak for the same amount of money, well, maybe you would go and buy some more steak. But it's funny with stocks and other things that we think of more as investments. Sometimes when they drop, we get scared of them. So, and that's kind of like our psychology or our tendencies can trick us. So, I think ultimately, the way I'm approaching this is really you want to keep your expenses low where you can, keep saving and investing for a rainy day. Try and contribute where you can. Otherwise, just keep calm and just keep accumulating on. And really, just trust the process. So that's all I would say. So hopefully that's been useful for you guys. Thanks. I'll see you guys in the next one.